Every year, over 500,000 people vanish as if they evaporate into thin air. But in 2009, things took a different turn. This time, someone appeared. He had no identity, no past, no official record. He called himself Peter Bergmann. But the truth is, Peter Bergmann never really existed. This is one of the darkest mysteries of the internet, and now you're about to face it. In 2009, a man using the name Peter Bergmann arrived in Sligo. He carried an old suitcase, paid cash for the hotel, and said he had come from Vienna. But soon, it became clear he was not as ordinary as he seemed.
He signed in using the name Peter Bergmann, Bergmann. Some countries use one N, others use two. The indications are that Austrian nationals use two N's. That's the name he used, that's the name he signed, with an address in a city called Wien, or Wien in Austria. He didn't provide any documentary proof of his identity. We know from inquiries with the Austrian police that such an address does not exist.
For 3 days, he left the hotel carrying a purple bag but returned empty-handed. CCTV captured every step he took around the town. The police examined his every move, but the more they investigated, the more mysterious the case became.
The purple plastic bag was becoming more significant. It was quite clear that he was disposing of items of personal property in and around Sligo. We would have done extensive searches throughout Sligo, be it rubbish bins, public areas, gardens of properties, private properties, car parks. We even searched the local dump in the hope that we might have been able to find some of his property that might have helped us to identify who he actually was. He had obviously all of this planned during some of the occasions that he left the hotel, where he was going to dispose of the next piece of property or the next bag of clothing or whatever was in the bag. CCTV cameras are highly visible all over Sligo town. It's quite likely he would have identified their locations. If he didn't, we would have picked up where he was disposing of the clothing. So, whilst he had no difficulty with people seeing him on the CCTV and his movements, he certainly went to great lengths to ensure that the property that he disposed of was never found, because that is not identifiable anywhere on any of the CCTV.
Bergmann wasn't just avoiding attention, he was systematically erasing himself. No ID, no passport, no record of entry into Ireland. It was as if he had never existed and never wanted to be found.
It appears that he used a false name. He certainly used a false address. There are no passports, or have been no passports issued to a male of that name, fitting that description or that age profile, anywhere in mainland Europe, America and South America. No record in any of those locations of a Peter Bergmann.
In 3 days, he walked the streets of Sligo 13 times. He moved deliberately and calmly, never lingered or drew attention. He purchased 8 different international stamps. The police tried to understand what they wwere for.
On the Saturday itself, we established that he had gone into the post office here in Sligo. He had purchased 8 82-cent stamps and airmail stickers. Now, we were never able to establish where those letters were posted, to who the letters were posted, or when he posted them. But certainly he had obviously correspondence to send to someone, somewhere.
On his last day, Bergmann left the hotel and walked to the bus stop. He ordered a cappuccino and a sandwich, then sat down at a table and wrote something on a piece of paper. Witnesses watched him for minutes, thinking he was different.
Did appear to take paper from his pocket and wrote notes. Now, obviously we were working in reverse. It was 3-4 days afterwards when we were viewing this footage, so we didn't have the benefit of being able to secure whatever piece of paper he had torn up.
That afternoon, Bergmann boarded a bus heading to Ross's Point Beach. Witnesses saw him walking back and forth along the shore. He was fully dressed but holding his shoes. At 10:50 p.m., under the moonlight, he was still pacing the beach. Someone spoke to him, but he did not respond.
We were walking back up towards the ramp, and the man was walking down the ramp, obviously to come onto the beach when we first encountered him. He had grey hair, black leather jacket, pale enough skin. He didn't really say anything to us. We said hello to him. He nodded back and he didn't say anything else. Only for the fact that it was 10:30, 11 o'clock. I would have completely forgotten about it, just like any other encounter I have with any other person every day.
The next morning, a father and son were walking on Ross's Point Beach. Through the mist, they saw something in the sand. At first, they thought it was a mannequin. But as they got closer, ignoring the truth became impossible.
And I noticed this, something like almost something from a shop window, like a mannequin that was in the sand. And of course, as I got closer, I realised it was actually a person, and that he seemed to have drowned. That was a little shock for the system.
I suppose in a way you go into autopilot mode and do what you have to do, you know, alert the Gardaí.
Bergmann was lying face down in the sand just beyond the waterline. He wore only a navy t-shirt and black underwear. His clothes were neatly folded nearby, but the strangest detail was yet to be revealed.
The clothing that was on the deceased body, he had removed each individual label from those clothes. It just shows the level of planning, the level of detail he had gone into to ensure that he was never identified. We were obviously getting a picture at that stage that this man had meticulously planned his final days, his final act, and the lengths that he went to was just unbelievable.
The police assumed it was a simple drowning case. However, no water was found in his lungs, no signs of struggle or injury. His belongings were missing. The autopsy revealed a more surprising fact. The cause of death was acute heart failure. His heart had failed, likely just before he disappeared into the sea. Without that heart attack, Peter Bergmann would have been lost forever.
When we did the rest of the medical examination, we found that he has extensive cancer of his prostate and he had tumour in his bone. There were other findings. There was evidence of previous heart attacks. Toxicology report showed that there was no evidence of the common painkillers. There was no evidence of aspirin, paracetamol, or indeed any opiate-based painkillers. So, for somebody that has that extensive disease, that would be a little bit unusual.
But the mystery didn't end there. Who was Peter Bergmann? Was he a terminally ill man choosing to die alone? Or was he a fugitive running from his past? Maybe an old spy who erased himself before it was too late.
The truth is, we may never know what actually happened in those last few minutes and what he was hoping to achieve. What we can say, he was there. It would seem that something happened. Who knows?
Or maybe none of those. Maybe Peter Bergmann wasn't running from anyone. He just wanted to die alone. But the way he did it, the fake name, erased identity, missing belongings, left more questions than answers.
From really the moment that his body was found, washed up on the rocks at Ross's Point Beach, we started to carry out the investigations. We explored every conceivable option that was available to us. We used the media both in mainland Europe, nationally and internationally. We had secured his DNA, his fingerprints. Those were circulated to all police forces. He did not feature in any jurisdiction. He may have had the belief that his remains would have been washed out to sea and may never have been found.
In today's world, can someone really disappear? Or does the act of erasing yourself ensure you are remembered forever? Peter Bergmann is now an eternal mystery, one of the darkest, most unsolved secrets of the internet age.
He left a footprint, basically on CCTV. The images themselves are haunting in the sense that he remained on his own. He didn't communicate or mingle with anyone. In effect, he was writing the last days of his life, and it was all done on his own terms, according to his own plan, and that's quite obvious now with the benefit of hindsight. I have to be satisfied with our investigations at this time that Peter Bergmann does not exist. It's highly likely that he never did